Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Cosmic Wizard Show. Today, we're going to be talking to Verone again because I think she has some really interesting things to tell us about her take on Sagittarius season. So, welcome, Verone. Thank you for being here today.
So much. Well, thank you so much for having me. I'm super excited. I love to get to talk about astrology and feel included in the astrological community. It's been really important and healing and a great place of like community and connection, especially for the last 2 years where my life has been primarily digital. So yes, thank you.
Sure. Of course. So happy to have you. I've been noticing that you were talking about Chiron season, and I really want to dive into that a little bit.
Okay, yeah, I think with all astrologers, the information is vast, especially when you're diving into like the esoterica, the mythology, the mysteries, the hidden secret, the occult that is within the stars. Every time I follow the sun around the zodiacal wheel, since I've been very conscious paying attention to the sun going through our zodiacs and the zodiacal wheel, every mysterious mystery hidden information, there's like a different layer. And as the sun's been traveling through the Sagittarius constellation this time, I've been diving into Chiron a lot, and I've been called to say like Chiron season and Chiron, not that it's limited to. And the thing is, like, Chiron has also been known as Centaurus, the constellation Centaurus. So I'm not saying it's not that. We're talking about huge multidimensional cosmic energies. They're never just one thing. But for me, I've been diving a lot more into Chiron and what it's meant for the sun to travel through this like pretty large constellation and all the different parts. I love the mythology and I love the mystery. So it just gives me this like other layer to apply to my own healing and the healing I do with my clients and my patients. So yes, a lot of Chiron magic, and Chiron's really cool. Chiron's this centaur that so we think about these hybrids of animals and people. We've got the Minotaur, which I think of as Taurus. We've got like, the centaur, which is human, and then this horse body. And I really love the blend between human and animal, where we can be like domestic and wild. We can really connect to these parts of ourselves. And that like Chiron, unlike all these other centaurs, was super well scholared, like super scholar, super educated, kind of almost like a taming of the beast. That's kind of what I get from it, like the taming of that like wild animal, because a lot of other centaurs are described as like lusty and drinking and all of this really animalistic. Not that there's anything wrong with that, we also have that too, but Chiron's been kind of like trained in order to tap into higher levels of consciousness and different types of learning. So yes, I would really love to talk throughout this session about Chiron and like Chiron's journey, where they came from, who their parents are, like who they've been connected to. To me, it's a really important aspect of it. And that we have to remember that, at least I think, these beings, these energies, these stars, they're like a part of us. They're a part of us. So this story lies inside of us too, however we can connect to it, like however we are able to heal and connect to it. Chiron doesn't just have to be like the wounded, period. I think the wounded is part, but it's just such a small aspect to me, honestly. It's just one piece of how vast just this one being is.
There's like so much mastery in it too, right? And, since I've started to like follow the transits, since switching to sidereal, actually, Sag is one that I've had that like still feels like a bit of a mystery to me in some ways. And, when you're talking about this sort of like half beast, half, starting to become tame too, I've been playing around just like totally experimentally with a house system where, because I think the fact that the galactic center is in a fucus like means something, right? And it feels really sort of like woomy, and even just that you know, the galactic center is seen as a doorway from other worlds. You know, it has like a lot of these womb sort of significance, and my intuition was telling me that like it's almost as if we were to operate on that assumption, it's almost as if like Sag is a little bit of a baby stage, you know, like still just part animal, but trying to like understand the world and like curious and expanding all the time. And I don't know, like I said, this is still just very experimental, but
well, I think there's something to that kind of like beginning energy, since we go through the galactic center, Mula, this place of like the cosmic womb, or the like cosmic vagina, or meaning roots, a bundle of roots in the Vedic system. And so that portal, that place is really important. So I see the like infancy stage of Chiron, but also Chiron is this master archer, and they're pointing their arrow directly at the galactic center. I mean, the galactic center is Sagittarius A. And so really having this place of being like a mastery of archery, a master of archery, being able to aim at something. I mean, think about how amazing it is when we hit our target, when we like take all that energy and we hit the target, and that target is the womb or the root of our, you know, galaxy. So I think it's really important to see maybe the wild and the tame and the infancy and the mastery, you know, it's kind of like all there. It's pretty amazing.
Like
I think this is why
through as babies, right? Really, we're like seeds that are closer to what like our like true, like almost sort of destiny is, right? As we grow up, sometimes we can get the layers of conditioning. Whereas when we're young, I feel like, I mean, I've got a pretty young child, so I think about this sort of stuff all the time. But you know, I feel like babies are actually very, very, very tapped into, you know, their higher powers.
Totally. And that to me still brings it back to Chiron, because Chiron is here to remove the brainwashing, the blocks, the old stories, the like outdated contracts, like healing. What is healing? What does healing mean? Healing means we're healing our physical body, we're healing our subtle bodies, we're healing our emotions, we're healing the past life, we're healing all of our generational trauma and curses. Healing is so multidimensional, just like Chiron. And so when we're able to tap in, what you're saying is like, we're able to tap into source. And maybe source is really pouring from that root, the galactic center. We've really got this source portal coming in. So for us to have pure access to it, like pure access without any blocks and barriers, and what we kind of pick up as we get older in this world that we've been living in, Chiron lets us tap into that like pure brilliance, or the like expression in its most purest form. And I love that, because Chiron is like the wisest, the truest, the justest of all the centaurs. So even having this like moral compass that was pure and just and really connected to that like galactic center, that place of source energy.
Ever since, this is taking it back to what is something you said earlier, but ever since starting to work with True Sidereal, you know, because there's no, really like fully agreed upon rulership, say, for a fucus, and it's a little bit more like open for curiosity and exploration. It sort of made me think that like a lot of the rules in astrology are a lot more, you know, what's the word I'm looking for? We could even use like mutable or flexible than sometimes we think. And I'm really into this idea lately that like instead of necessarily rulers, right? Because people who are watching this might be like, oh, you know, the ruler of Sag is Jupiter, the end, right? But I really like the idea of like resonance and like multiple planets. Even if we look at traditional versus new rulers, it's really just like a level of resonance.
Totally. I agree with that. I think rules in general aren't really something I'm fixed or really gripping onto. Things change, things shift. even our boundaries are doing that. Like maybe one person is your best friend for 5 years, and then maybe they become your enemy. Like there's no hard and fixed rules. And if it's like that with us, it's like that with the stars, because as above, so below. And I think that we need to learn things at different times. Like we, as a human collective, we are going through a state of conscious evolution, just like we did when we were little babies. Like we're doing it collectively too. I mean, I kind of think we're still kind of in a fetus state of consciousness. There's a lot of things where I'm like, shouldn't that just be like, why are people still trying to really fight about that? So I really think that depending on what we need to learn is where we're focusing, but there's a lot of places, I mean, everything connects and everything synthesizes somehow. So even if something was, you know, a resident, maybe it wasn't a hard and fixed rule and there was some flexibility, that to me all makes sense. I think that humans just like want to be like, this is it, the end. And I'm not really quite sure. And maybe we like to fight each other because we've been like bred to fight one another, because we've got these like, you're either like this dogs. Or this, or kind of like dogs. I've been kind of thinking about that. It's like you get the pregnancy test before. You're either a boy or you're a girl. If you're a boy, you do this. If you're a girl, you do this. You're either like Democrat or Republican. You're either pro or you're anti. It's almost like sports. I like to think about it like, I don't really want to be in the game. Like I don't want to play this sports game. And so I think that we fight each other, but the disagreeing is part of the beauty of learning and figure things out. Like not everybody has the same information. We all have a different piece. And just because maybe ours aren't the same, it doesn't mean that they're one's wrong and one's right. They both could be right. You know, it all could be right. My guides are always telling me when I started with astrology, I started learning about sidereal when it was like tropical and sidereal. My guides told me, be a synthesizer, like be the synthesizer and see, don't just throw one out. You know, let yourself be curious about it, know why you're feeling something. Don't just listen to other people. And so it's been a journey for me. And the best is like following, I love just paying attention to the sun and tapping really into those mysteries of the constellations. Because within the constellations, then you have all the fixed stars. And then there also will be planets going through that will be transiting and making aspects. And so there's so much that you'll learn just from watching the sun. At least personally, that's what I like to do, which also could segue me into Apollo, which was known to be like a sun being, a sun god, but also the teacher of Chiron. So Chiron came from, I don't know what you know about the mythology of Chiron.
I know a lot. Yeah.
You know what? Okay.
I was watching at home, may not. So let's start from scratch, right?
Okay, yeah. So Chiron was born of Cronus and a sea nymph. And Cronus is pretty much like Saturn. Father was Uranus, pretty much like the Roman Saturn. And his mother, the sea myth, I think a nymph, I'm going to say her name wrong. I think it's Philyra. Do you know how to pronounce that correctly?
I don't know the pronunciation.
Philyra. So she was a sea nymph, and she came from these oceanids. This is Chiron's mother. She came from these oceanids. There were 3,000 of them. So they were like a rare species, only 3,000 of these oceanids. And the oceanids, the father was all the rivers in the world, like this primordial river that encircled the world. And his sister wife was the ocean goddess. So Chiron's mother really came from like rivers and oceans and waters, and the father was more Saturn. But if you even think about it, like rivers and oceans need a container too, if we're thinking about Saturn being kind of a container. So Chiron comes, and then Apollo was his teacher. Apollo was like raised him. So everything that Apollo knows, like Apollo was into music, poetry, like knowledge, was in the temples of Delphi, the oracles of Delphi, really connected to all the like mysteries and oracular mysteries and connected to the suns. So he taught Chiron all of that. So Chiron's coming from Saturn and this like ocean water nymph, and then learns from Apollo of like all of the mysteries that Apollo holds. So then Chiron has the abilities to not just pull from Saturn and the water and the ocean nymph, but also from all the mysteries of Apollo, which is like prophecy and music and archery, master archer. Apollo was also a master archer, and medicine, a master healer, a physician, like so much information. You're really talking about being tapped into source. Think about primordial water. Can't really get more source than primordial water. And then Saturn coming from Uranus, and really having so much ability to heal and learn and connect to music. Just there's so much there, you know. I think the wound is part, but so I don't know if you want to add anything to that, to his like where he came from.
Well, I mean, I know you want to focus on the like less necessarily of the wounding story, right? But for anyone who might be watching,
Yeah, but we don't have to, I mean, it's a part of it too.
You know, like his mother was raped, and that's how he was conceived, right? And then he comes out like half human, half beast, and she's horrified, and she's like, I don't even want to, nope, check me out, no thank you, I did not sign up for this. And they like turn her into a tree, right? And so this idea of like being rejected from the very start by the person who like should be there to love you most is sort of where this theme of like deep, super kind of primordial wounding comes from when we're talking.
Yeah.
Also, well, actually, I'll add on after, but
no, I want to hear also what.
Last time we got together, we were talking about Medusa, right? And there's a tie-in here too, because Chiron became like this master healer, and at first, like he was very celebrated for it. And then at one point, he got some blood from Medusa. I'm forgetting the story, but and he used it to like cheat death, essentially.
Chiron did.
Yeah.
I thought Chiron was immortal, because I know that. Well, I do know.
He did it for humans.
Oh, he did it for humans. Yes.
Yeah. So he was like, here, I will give you this medicine, then you won't die. And then the gods were like, whoa, you can't just suddenly make it so that all the humans can't die. And then I think at that point, things are getting a little fuzzy here, but I think it was at that point that they like put him in the sky, because they were like, whoa, buddy, you're getting a little too.
Well, I thought that the reason that Chiron became a constellation, Zeus made him a constellation, Zeus being his half brother. Not that like the Greek stories are all the stories, but this is the information that I have in my consciousness right now. Yeah. And so Prometheus, who gave the humans fire, he gave humans fire, and they were like, no, why are you giving humans fire? And he was going to be killed for it. He did not have immortality. And so Chiron, Prometheus was like chained to a rock, like dying or whatever. Yeah. And maybe like the story is like birds are eating out his liver, or I'm all the details are
I seem to remember something about that. Yeah.
So like they're so gruesome. And so Chiron was like, I will give up my immortality to save Prometheus. Like I will give up my immortality and to save Prometheus. And the story goes like either Zeus, because it was Chiron's half brother, he had to, or he was so overwhelmed with like amazement, he couldn't believe someone give up their immortality. He made Chiron a constellation. Some say it's Centaurus, some say that it's Sagittarius, but yes, the medicine.
That's interesting. So that's like the tale of like two people trying to like lift up the human race, essentially working together. That's kind of cool.
And Zeus was the one that, I don't want to get into Zeus right now. I have a huge issue with Zeus, and I think that some people really are about it, but to me, the energy of Zeus, a lot of
problematic things to be found in the tales of Zeus.
I know Zeus to me is kind of like the face of the patriarchy. And I'm not saying that all of Zeus energy is bad, but it's just, there's too much, you know, he's like got too much control, just kind of like when anyone has too much control, or he can like condemn everybody, or he makes all the rules. He can do, there's something about it that
and
needs
he's like
to be
really
transformed.
volatile, like sort of just whatever he feels like at the time.
Yeah. So yeah, it's kind of like, I like reclaiming the lightning bolt as something that I use for my magic, and
not
having it be so much just for Zeus. But I don't, I'm not, for me, like mythology, it didn't just stop. It has continued. It's evolved. We stopped. We kind of like went into a blackout, whether you call it the dark ages or whatever. And so we're little by little, like quote unquote, waking up. I think we're just removing like the blinders and the film and the goo and the fuzz. So we can be like, oh yes, like this is still going on. And now we need to learn about it and see that all these beings and these energies have evolved, and all the stories that we've had hasn't been the whole story. We get like bits and pieces, like with Medusa. If you research her, it's like demon whore will turn you to stone, just like Lilith is like will eat your babies, vampire whore. Like, I'm like, okay, yes, all the liberated female energies are demon whores that are going to eat your babies. Like, okay, cool. And all the ones that we worship are virgins and they wear white and they obey their husbands, and like, okay, cool. Like, is anybody else tired of the story? Because like I definitely am, and it runs through everything. It really does. And with the point, or the Medusa's blood, I mean, I know that Asclepius would use Medusa's blood for healing, but Asclepius was the student of Chiron.
I'm getting
Asclepius was Chiron.
up.
Well, no, it might be true though, because Asclepius was the student of Chiron. So Chiron might have taught or taught.
Connected, but not. Yeah, it's connected.
And it's so connected. So it shows you. I mean, for me, it's like we're in Sagittarius, but we are still very much connected to Ophiuchus. To me, Ophiuchus runs through all of the zodiac. So I think we'll see that serpent mystery and that bloodline healing come through each one. And also Chiron, when he decided to give up his immortality, Zeus told Hercules, who was also a student, I believe, of Chiron. I think I'm getting that right. Anyways,
he trained the heroes.
Yes, he shot an arrow at Chiron that was poisoned with the blood of Hydra, which Hydra is the water snake. So back to snake energy. I mean, we really can't get away from the powerful healing of the serpent. For me, it's like the basis of a lot of healing. I like to I think it's important to really know about the serpent mysteries and the serpent healing, because it's not like the only thing. I believe that we're also going to be like in the cat healing and the bird healing and a lot of, all the animals, but there is something really primordial about the serpent healing, and you will see the mysteries woven throughout if you're paying attention, So I love all of that. And I think Chiron is a super powerful being and energy to work with, especially right now. It's just been coming up so much for me. It's almost like I can't even think almost of anything else. And I'm having all these Chiron discussions online. It's like Chiron, Chiron, Chiron. It's like so much of it right now.
Well, and too, like, not that it's the only thing that sort of spurs us to want to like learn and expand and heal, but oftentimes like pain is very much a catalyst to want to understand things better, and sends us on a mission to have to like learn more and expand our perception and sort of go seeking, right?
Totally. I think like pain equaling maybe curiosity sometimes, because unless you're currently going through the physical pain, a lot of time it's like the memory of the pain, or we carry it on with us,
It's been huge this season for me, actually. And like with the like thread of, it's interesting to me that Christmas happens in Sagittarius season, and Christmas is like very, very much a time that like pulls to the surface shit from our roots, and like family stuff and like memories of trauma,
but also deep ancestors. And I'm going to give credit to my partner for teaching me about this being, thanks River Culver, but Sagittarius was also known as Pablo Sag, which is called like the master of the ancestors or the guardian of the ancestors. It's a Babylonian being. I don't know. I feel like Babylonian mysteries are something that I want to go into magically. Like I don't just read about it. Like it becomes part of like my life. I've got altars of doing the magic. The beings are talking to me, and it's Babylonian it's a little bit different. It's a little bit different of an energy, and it hasn't quite come to me yet. So I
haven't been delving into it, but that's actually what I'm being like called towards right now. And there's like beings from that lineage that I'm finding are actually have been like shadow a part of drawing me into this particular type of astrology.
Yeah, I think there's a lot there. I'm very interested, but yeah, Pablo Sag, I believe I'm saying it right, is the guardian of the ancestor. So with the Christmas, you're saying going into the roots and digging things up. I think that's totally true. But also the deep, wise ancestors. I was listening to a whole bunch of Nordic music, and I just found out a couple of years ago that my grandfather was adopted from Norway. So I was really like feeling that, and just like the pagan roots, and I took some Amanita mushroom, so I was really connected to like the jovialness of like the Santa energy and like so, and also I think depending on where the sun is in a constellation will depend on the energy or the feelings or the experience or the mystery or the vibe of what's going on, especially when the constellations are, I think with Scorpio it's a shorter time because then we go into Ophiuchus, but like Virgo's huge. So if you're going through the head or by Spica versus like the skirt of Scorpio, like you're going to get a different type of magic, a different type of energy, a different type of life. I mean, we're experiencing this, like we are experiencing the magic of the stars here on Earth. And so for me, the front part of this, of the Centaur, like the head and like through the heart, was all like, I had some jovial times, I had some ancestor time. And then towards the end, I mean, I think it's also because Pluto and Venus were conjunct, and Venus is retrograde, and now the sun and like Pluto are conjunct across from, you know, the full moon. And so it's hard to for me completely separate it. I'm like, okay, now Pluto's here, and like I'm getting out of my Pluto square, so I feel like I've been very close with Pluto. I know what Pluto feels like on a very intense level. And so like, does the end of Sagittarius feel like the depths, or is it also because Pluto's there, you know, and we're having this Pluto experience? So it's hard to really like take them all apart because they're all weaving together. But yeah, a lot of like bringing things to the surface, because that's really how you're going to transmute them. So I even think having this Centaur in to help transmute energies. But I mean, I call a lot of other beings in for transmutation. I think the Lyrans have been really important right now. I don't know if you get like into these galactic star beings, but the Lyrans also connected to the Lyra constellation with the star Vega, Apollo and Chiron. There's been a lot of like lyres or harps, Apollo like harps. So I really think they also connect too with this ability to like be connected to the harp or the lyra, and this like sound healing, I think, is a really important thing to do during this time. And everything just connects at some level where you're just like, wow, everything's literally, all the information's connecting. And I think Chiron because he's this, or they're this like scholar, there's so much information, like you said, like being the infant, tapping into like the source. There's so much there. There's so much there, and it's very cool.
yeah, for sure. Do you have any thoughts on like Pluto's last little stay here in Sagittarius?
Well, I really think that for the rest of January, what's today, like the 11th or the 12th or the 13th or something around that.
The 13th, yeah.
Okay, it's already 13th. Okay. I'm like, what day, what week? I think it's really important for this last bit of January to really let the shit come to the surface and let it go with Pluto. Also because starting next month, the Chinese New Year happens. I went to school for acupuncture and Chinese medicine, so I feel very tapped into the Chinese New Year.
What year are we in right now?
We're in a yin metal ox year. So yin is like, you know, yin energy is like ox, yeah.
So that's like, we've just been like in so much, 2021 was so much Taurus energy, I feel like. with like
Well, I think it's like a big,
and the 5 and
yeah, and a big focus on like your body and like taking care of your body. And a lot of people were like, have been like home, and the yin energy is like, you really need to build that yin. If you were super slow last year of 20, or even up until now, if you've been like slow and resting and not doing much, good. Like we needed to build that yin energy. That yin is going to give us the base and the foundation that anchors our yang, so our yang doesn't like fly up into the sky like almost like a balloon and never comes back. Like we have to have balance. And so the metal also is connected to boundaries and lungs. So being able to like build boundaries and like connect to our lungs, I think has been a really like big focus. And so starting next month, we shift into the yang water tiger, which is like fucking different. You know, we got yang water, so like moving waters, like waterfalls and rivers, but also kind of like tsunamis and rapids. And the tiger, you know, the tiger versus the ox, it's almost like predator versus prey. One is kind of like trudging the land, like
eating some grass.
Tiger eat some grass. The tiger could be like ferocious, you know. So there's a more ferocious, I think it's like busting through a lot of fears, especially because water is kidneys. So metal is lungs and water is kidneys. So, and kidneys have to do with processing fear in Chinese medicine. The lungs have to do with processing grief and sorrow, but the kidneys are processing fear. So really being able to like bust through our fears, like the water's moving. Maybe we felt kind of like a stagnant swamp in like 2021. Maybe we felt stuck. Like I think maybe we felt stuck and we felt stuck in our body, but that yang water is going to start moving it through the pipes. I really think we're all going to start feeling like things are picking up. So for me, as Pluto goes through the end of Sagittarius, it's like, let yourself rest, let the crap come up. You don't need to jump too fast. I think a lot of us can feel like it's time to jump. It's like, it's important to really know when it's time to move. Like let yourself heal until the last possible minute. Like get the stuff out, get the rest out, like take salt baths, like drink a lot of water, like let the emotions come and let them go, because I do think the energies are going to continue to pick up for 2022 for sure.
So in Chinese medicine, what the elements can be either like yang or yin. Is that what you're saying?
Every single thing in Chinese medicine can be broken down to yin and yang. Like that's what I love about Chinese medicine. There's a simplicity to its complexity, and you can break everything down into yin and yang. And when you're trying, like when I'm trying to figure out what kind of pattern somebody has, or trying to figure out where I need to focus the energy and where to put the needles, just breaking it down into yin and yang can really do a lot. And I do this with a lot of things. Like I think
so like sorry to hop in, but I'm just curious.
No.
So like, is water yang, or can it be both?
Water can be both, because like, I mean, think about water. Water can be a rapid, water can be a waterfall, water can be a completely still pond, water can be a tsunami, water can be a swamp, like water could be so many things. So
love this.
Water
this like resonates so much harder than just this idea of like water is feminine and earth is feminine and fire is masculine.
No, that makes me crazy. It's like, have you seen the Taiji symbol, like the yin yang symbol that was really popular in the 90s as like silly jewelry? So yin and yang are mutually exclusive. They can never be separated. They're always changing into one another. They are a part of one another. They're the same being. They're not separate. And that there's yin within yang and yang within yin, and it's different cycles. And it's also a multidimensional kind of way of looking at things. It's not just one surface. It's not one dimensional. So like even within a person, you can have multiple different patterns, and each of those patterns can have different yin and yang. There's so much in there. So like to just say water is yin, to me, is very incorrect. Water can be the whole entire, everything can be the whole entire spectrum. You know, it's, I think the same thing like about gender, or like, you know, we can have the extremes, but ultimately in the Taiji symbol, you want to be as close to the center as possible. And in the center is the serpent. That's what I always see. The center is the serpent. So the more you can balance your energies, all the different levels of energies. The more that they can stay in balance for whatever you are, or all of our balances are different, everything's different. Like somebody may want to somebody may have more natural fire, or somebody may have more of, we're not all the same, the balance is different for everybody. But the more that you can stay in your balance, the more things are not at extremes. And I really think that in society, we're experiencing these polar extremes so that we can find the balance. And a lot of times the poison is the medicine. And I think that poison is going to be different for everybody too. What is your, a lot of people is the trauma healing and turn the depths into power. But sometimes people's poison paths are different. And even in Chinese medicine, when somebody's way away from their bullseye, way away from the center of health, toxic herbs are used. Chinese medicine, the herbs are crazy. There's centipede and there's a lot of really interesting poisonous herbs to kind of knock somebody back, but then they swing this way, then you have to knock them back. So I think we're going through this. I like to look at Chinese medicine applied, because it's Chinese medicine theory is also connected to Chinese cosmology, and it's just very fascinating. And so we're kind of, as a society, I think, maybe being hit in different ways, and you can see kind of how it happens to you and how it happens to others. So yeah, water to me, it's kind of I think even with fire could even be yin too, because if you had that slow, constant burning fire, we would have, I just think that
the embers.
Yeah, the embers. It's because even within a fire, there's yin and yang. There's the flames that could be yang, but yeah, the embers underneath, that's really anchoring where are the flames coming from.
It pulls in the oxygen, it puts out the heat. Totally.
So yeah, I think they're not separate. I think this is what people try to do, is they try to sever. I mean, think about how many severing stories we have, sever the goddess, or sever, the head of the mysteries. It's we can't sever Rahu from Ketu. They're the same being. You cannot sever the head off the dragon or the serpent. You can't, North Node and South Node, they're part of the same being. It's the head and the tail of the dragon. So same kind of thing. To me, that's Chinese medicine also, that's the yin yang theory. They're not separate. When someone says water is yin and fire is yang, it's water and fire come together to make creation, and without them together, we don't have life. In Chinese medicine, when the yin and yang separate, that's when someone dies. The yang, the yin stays into the body, decomposes, and the spirit rises up. So when yin and yang separate, it's death. And so we don't want yin and yang to be separate, or it'll be death. And so to me, it's you've got to have them. It's the sacred lovers. They're the cosmic union. Yin and yang spiral together like the double helix of our DNA. And so it's really important to work with them as one being, not we don't need to be pulling ourselves apart, stop picking ourselves apart, putting ourselves back together. And I really do think that 2022, there's a big emphasis on that, because we're in the 6th year, the 2022 equals 6, which is the lovers. With the Gregorian calendar, I've got issues with Gregorian calendar too, but we're all agreeing to it right now. So there is a magic to the Gregorian calendar.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, the number 6 of the lovers is that fire and water, that yin and yang, and behind the lovers is the hermit. So having the mastery of the two forces that are actually one.
And have you noticed too, because with this idea of lovers, if we're going to pull tarot associations, there's Gemini association, and just with the idea that it's the lovers, there's obviously a Venus association, and we're starting the year off with a Venus retrograde and a Mercury retrograde.
Right? I know, that's so interesting. I like that perspective on it. It's very cool. I know the Mercury retrograde is, it's so interesting with the Mercury retrograde. I feel each one feels a little bit different to me. And I would think that they would always feel I think people are Mercury retrograde, but I love the energy of reviewing and moving through, Mercury, Hermes. It's hard for me to separate Mercury from Hermes. I'm such a same deity person. I'm the deity have just been coming to me for so long. So the one that goes in between, you can find new hidden pathways in the Mercury retrograde. It's okay, you thought this is the way, but well, maybe that was mostly your ego talking or your trauma talking. So you know, we just went through this Chiron season, and we're going through the Chiron season, and maybe you've seen like all the things that you were resistant to are actually good for you. You know, maybe where you are right here, right now is perfectly where you need to be, because you are finding these hidden pathways that are actually going to get to your goals and dreams even quicker. We try to control so many things. You know,
and it's where you are, so it must be where you're supposed to be. You know?
I know. It's so interesting. We try to control everything, and it's like, we don't know all of that. But I really see Mercury retrograde as like, let's go in the in-between. Let's go behind the screen of the video game. Let's start seeing these cool different openings and pathways so that we can make a little bit different choices when Mercury like is direct again. So yeah, I think I love Mercury. My Mercury is on my ascendant, and so I think about Mercury often.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Awesome. And in Virgo too, super Mercury.
Yeah. Sometimes it's like, okay, I gotta stop. It's like, just pass out.
I've been like opening up a lot more to my Mercury energy just like very, very recently, because I've got tons of it in my chart, and I haven't even really like considered it that much, even though it's obvious. One of those.
Well, yes, as you're making a podcast right now.
Yeah, right. And as I spend like almost all of my waking time trying to like stuff more information into my brain, right?
Yes, I know the information. It's like you're starving for it. That's what I feel about Mercury. On my ascendant, I'm just gobbling it up. And I really learn through my interactions with other people, it being my ascendant. That's the best way for me to learn, is like my interactions that I have with other people. Yeah, for sure. One of my teachers is my partner. I mean, he's teaching me constantly, and I'm just like little sponge, sucking up all the information.
Yeah. And I think that Mercury has like such a, like, I can't not associate him with Hermes or like any of the other like associated gods behind, like, I feel like I pronounced this wrong, but like Thoth, like great wisdom gods, you know, and like there's such a magical association that I feel like is swept under the rug a little bit, when really like he's the one who can go anywhere. You can travel between worlds. This is huge.
I know. Psychopomp, so cool. I love that. And like with Hermes Trismegistus was the bringer of alchemy. So the one who understands alchemy. I mean, come on, like if that was just one guide, if you just had one guide that was like, I invented alchemy, like, okay, that's pretty badass. And then also it's pronounced so many different ways. Toth, Thoth. I kind of say all three and change them up. I don't know which one is correct. I haven't had a formal letter from this being like, this is how you pronounce my name. I'm not sure, but yeah, really like, you know, that the bird head, that like ibis head, and bringing in the Egyptian mysteries, which I love. And a lot of times I like having that being kind of sitting on my head like a crown, like they're close, and being able to like just give me the pure information. Don't give me like triggers. Don't give me things that like are confusing. Just like putting the being on like a hat. Like that is how I work a lot with them. Hermes to me is more like moving around. Like Hermes isn't necessarily going to sit still on my head or my crown chakra, but Thoth definitely does. So, and the deck, the tarot deck that I use the most, like my OG tarot deck, is the Thoth deck that was created by Aleister Crowley and later
that was my first
Frida
deck
Harris.
Too.
It's like the only deck. If I could I would be the only deck I would keep. If I had to get rid of all my other decks, that's the deck that I like want.
I have a deck that I've like created quite a like relationship with. That's my main deck. I always keep that deck around because every once in a while I'm like, okay, I just need it like as brutally straight as possible. Tell me what's going on, and that's the deck to go to.
And there's so much within the pictures, within the artistry, within the paintings that are the pictures. There's so much. I'm always seeing something new. So I just love it. And like, yeah, Mercury is all the planets, they're powerful. And this is my one big issue with tropical astrology. And I'm not going to say this is everybody. I'm not going to say every single tropical astrologer is like this. I don't want to generalize. I don't think generalizations are really that healthy. But my personal experience with tropical astrology is that it dumbs the information down. Like the information is dumbed down, like the mystery, the magic, the healing, it is dumbed down to like Mercury retrograde is bad. And I'm not saying it's everybody, but maybe that's pop culture, maybe
but
that's mainstream. That, like, I'm not sure.
Like, I think that there are practitioners within it that are like great channels and can do excellent work regardless. I feel like it is a massive like flaw of the actual system. You know, everything fits in very neat boxes.
Yeah.
But like, we're talking about the mysteries of the universe here. Maybe they don't fit in such neat boxes.
I know, it makes me want to scream, even you just saying that. We're talking about the mysteries of the universe. There's so many times that I'm like in my house and I'm like, I'm going to flip the fuck out. Like, it's so like, why are things just, we're talking about like a energy of a planet. We're talking about energy of a star, of a constellation, of like the cosmic root, like these huge forces that
we can't just distill it into 3 keywords.
No, and I think that everybody's different. Not everybody wants to dive into that aspect of themselves, and that's okay. We're not all supposed to do the same thing.
Everyone's got their own paths, of course.
Yeah, but I also look at the world and I'm like, okay, it doesn't have to, I'm not looking for perfection, but things could like, we could be shifting a little bit better and this works.
But the momentum is happening too. So
I know we are in a great time of change. I mean, if you think about Corona, that's the crown, like the crown, and Corona Borealis, the constellation Corona Borealis sits on top of the head of Serpens, which is the snake that's being held by Ophiuchus. And I've been paying attention, River and I've been paying attention to kind of like what's going on in the sky while everything's happening. And that constellation Corona Borealis has been activated. Even when the different like variants came out, it was the same names. The stars were activated. There was Beta Geminorum and Omicron Lupus and the wolf. So there's just, you know, as above, so below. It cannot be separate. It's the same. That's yin and yang too, us and the stars. And so it can't be separate. But that crown, you know, there is something happening with the crown chakra of Earth, with the crown chakra of humanity and the collective consciousness. So I am glad that there is momentum to know more and to not just kind of like be dull with the information. It's so much more. Like Mercury retrograde, if everyone thought about like, let's find my hidden pathways so I can like really excel instead of being like everything bad is happening to me. Mercury retrograde, it's like perspective is everything. My whole perspective and perception shifted when I like went full into sidereal. I'm like, I'm not doing tropical anymore. I'm going full in sidereal, and things are different. Like things are just very different. Things are different for me. I'm like, okay, the world is different. Time is different. Everything's different, but it makes sense for my path as like a magician or a witch or a occultist, whatever words you want to use, me going deeper into like the gnosis, and it definitely makes sense. And, but I'm not going to grip onto something because maybe you might receive some information that changes your mind about something. Maybe there's something else that I don't even know, you know?
Yeah. Further along the path. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think it's important to stay flexible, like we were talking before, flexible in our consciousness so we can receive the other information that hasn't gotten to us yet, or maybe we haven't been ready to like process.
Yeah, for sure. For sure.
I didn't go in my mouth. It dribbled down and like dribbled down me a little bit. So
well, this is a sideline, but I love your outfit.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
I tried to get a little fancier for our
I noticed it. Today. I love the lipstick. I was like, oh, you know, I will real truths here. I spend probably 95% of myself in a robe, like in no makeup. My hair is greasy. I'm in a robe and I'm talking to my dog. I don't really see very many people. I work for myself. I work from home. So when I get the opportunity to be like, oh, I get to be cute, I'm gonna take it.
For sure. Yeah. I spend most of my time in like toddler stained clothes, or I've got a uniform for my night job. So that's fun.
Yeah. So it's nice to like know that that's not all that there is.
Yeah, exactly. We can keep talking. We'll keep having events to dress up for.
Yes, right? I know, I love that. At some point, I really want a sidereal conference. I think a lot of people do,
Yes.
right?
I
Wouldn't
think
that
this
be
would be
awesome?
great. Mhm.
We all can come together, we can all hang out, but maybe also it's a thing where people sign up and we all could like make some money and like how, you know, and
Mhm,
also
mhm.
there's enough tropical conferences.
Yeah, seriously.
So
Yeah, even
now some
just
of
like
these.
a gathering to like bring together all of this community we've been building and friends we've been meeting to actually like meet in person would be really cool.
I'm so into that. I feel
Mhm.
I've met a couple people. I met Ike. He came over
Oh yeah?
and yeah, but he was passing through and he hung out with
Yeah,
River and
yeah.
I. But yes, I definitely would love that. I think that would be really cool. Because
Mhm,
this
mhm.
information is like, I don't want to use the word cutting edge because I almost feel like that word annoys me. It's like this
Mhm,
information that we all are weaving together is so important.
mhm,
And the more, you know, we all make connections by talking too. You know, it's
mhm,
not just like, this is mine, the end. It's like,
mhm.
there's so much room for so many people to explore all this different information. And it's really helpful for humans. It's really
Mhm.
helpful for our consciousness. It's really helpful for our evolution and how we can like
Yeah.
live life. And I think it's important to not just let the mystery and the mythology and the magic and the deities just rot and die. Like, I'm sorry, but like, I'm taking Jesus off the cross and not letting him rot there anymore. And I'm doing that with all the deities because I'm tired of the stories of like pain. It's like everyone's raped and everyone's this. And it's like,
Yeah.
okay, maybe that happened too, but also that's not all. Like, that's not,
Mhm.
my trauma isn't the only thing about me, you
That
know?
feels like a huge theme this year too,
Yeah.
right? Like we've been in so many cycles of discord and fighting and Eris square Pluto and Saturn square Uranus and just like major like old god energies
Yeah.
coming to a head and all of us I feel like sort of being caught between. And then because for myself, like if I'm looking at the astrology, I look at what the outer planets are doing because
Yeah.
that's like the major forces that are going to be like really felt, you know, in like more of an overarching way, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously we feel all the energies day to day, but
Yeah,
I'm
but the larger lessons. Yeah.
exactly right. And this
Yeah.
year, what do we got going on? We've got Neptune Jupiter conjunction, and
Uh-huh.
like that's kind of the major thing, which is just going to be like so much of a different vibe than these like discordy squares we've had, you know.
What? And I think a big part of that, I think Neptune Jupiter could also be like a big disillusion or
Mhm,
confusion. I think, are we really, it's a different kind of clarity for sure, but I think the best thing to do is like remember that we're creators, we're artists, like
mhm,
all of us
mhm,
are, and it looks so many different ways for all different people. But
mhm,
after pulling all this shit with the Eris and the Pluto and all of it to the surface, it's like, okay,
mhm.
I've got a pile of shit in my hands. Like, what am I
Yeah.
going to do with it now? Am I going to like stuff it back in me? Am I going to hide it in the closet? Am I going to like be ashamed of it? Or am I
Mhm,
going to transform it? Am I going to use that for fuel for something? And like, I
mhm.
think Jupiter and Neptune together is really going to like expand like the creativity or expand our ability to dream about possibilities that maybe we've never dreamt about before because
Like
there
a
was
whole
too
brand new
much.
cycle,
Well, yeah, exactly.
right?
They're all this like the old gods is like, why is our God punishing us? Like to me, the universe is not against me. Like my
Mhm.
dreams and my
Yes.
goals and everything that I want, my love is not running away from me. I don't have to chase it. And I also
Mhm,
something isn't chasing me. I don't have to always run. Something isn't chasing us.
mhm,
And our dreams and goals aren't running away from us. We can
mhm.
literally arrive and create because
Yeah.
and the
We
sun, you
can
know,
just believe in a benevolent universe, you
yes,
know,
yes,
like it's possible.
yes, not to say that there are things going on that aren't fucked up, you know, of course
Hmm.
they are. And I think
Yep.
part of it is like realize it's fucked up, know that you
Hmm.
don't want it to be fucked up anymore, and then change. A
Hmm.
lot of time, I think
Hmm.
right now we're at this place with like everything is like we've got a lot of the information. A lot of the
Hmm.
information's there. It's like, are we going to sit and like complain about the information? Are we going to
Hmm.
fight about the
Hmm.
information? Are we going to stay with it? Or are we going to think about lasting solutions? Are we going to think
Hmm.
about ways to move forward? It's like it's not going to be the what we've been doing. It's not going
Hmm.
to be what we've been doing. I feel like Jupiter and Neptune can bring some like new way, you know, we're dreaming. That's the void. It's Neptune. It's like, it's an outer planet. It's something different. We need like new solutions. So I do think there's
and
like
in Pisces, it's going to be like a massive expansion of our oneness, you know?
And you know what's so cool is I'm going through my Neptune square right now. I'm just leaving my Pluto square and now I'm going through my Neptune square. So my moon is my moon is square my Neptune in the 3rd house in Ophiuchus, and my moon is being transited by Neptune. So I've got like my Neptune square conjunct moon. So I think I'm saying it right. I'm trying to see my chart in my head. And
I think so.
So yes, I feel I'm like, art is going to save my life. Like just go back into the art, going back into the creation. I'm trying not to use the word work. I'm really trying not to use that word.
Me
it's very
too.
challenging.
And this idea that
to
everything has to be hard, you know, we got to work towards it.
And stress. And it's like, if you don't have things figured out, you have to like work more, which honestly just makes things more stressful and depletes your energy. And so I've been trying to like create. I'm really, but it definitely, I mean, I was the way I was like raised, and maybe even my generation, it's like work, you know? And so moving away from that word is definitely it's a conscious action that I've got to think about all the time.
Yeah, that's something I've been working with really consciously too lately, is the idea of like, oh wait, it can be easy. Yeah. Like I'm just gonna, instead of just like trying to run on the treadmill this whole time, like I'm just gonna like relax into ease and be like, and know, okay, it's gonna flow.
Yeah. Or even just, for sure. Even thinking like running on the treadmill is going to get you to what you need faster, or like that's the answer, or that, you know, or like you're supposed to. I think part of it's that it's like, if you don't work hard, you don't deserve to have, you know, if you don't do this, then you don't deserve. And it's like, don't we deserve just from being like a spirit, being like, all right, time to go to Earth, like, and now we're here on Earth just living in all this. Isn't that enough? Like, isn't that enough? Just having a body is enough. We don't have to like earn it, like we have to earn our keep or whatever. And like I think a lot of like, I mean, I learned that as a child, like I had to earn my keep or whatever, and I'm like, what? Okay, well that's strange. But I think these themes are going to keep coming up more and more. And also Pisces and Neptune is like collective, you know, and Jupiter's expansion. So we're going to have a lot of like collective energies of how we got to work together, even if we don't agree with one another. Like we can't all agree. We're not robots. We're not cyborgs, gonna be at least not yet.
Of strikes this year.
Strikes?
I think so, yeah. Of people being like, oh, hold on a second. Like, if we can just put our petty shit aside and actually work together anyways, and like treat each other like a community, we can change this shit.
Yeah. I mean, it's the only way. Like the old ways really are gone. And we have to figure it out. People keep being like, want to get back to normal. I'm like, we're not going backwards. There is no more getting back to normal. And also normal was fucking hurting us. Like normal was hurting every single one of us. And also what is normal? We have to do something different. And so it's going to take all of us to have these like new solutions to the current problems that we have, all of us working together. So that feels very important.
Yeah, for sure. I feel like that's definitely gonna be a theme this year with this like big conjunction. I hope anyways. You know, obviously like everything spirals out in many different ways. So it's certainly not going to be the only manifestation of it, but I think it's going to be a pretty major one. Yes.
And I think that when you're tapped into sidereal, you also are really tapped into the outer rings of what the collective is going through, because it is the outer rings of what the collective is going through. You know, tropical astrology is, to me, inside of sidereal. Like if the constellations are around and then the signs are really more connected to the seasons, it's kind of more contained within. So tapping into sidereal for me is like, it's just an outer ring kind of consciousness, even with ourselves. I think some people have said tropical is more about the personality and sidereal is more about the soul path. For me, it's like, I could give a fuck less about my personality. I want to care about my soul path and like whatever transpires from that. Like a lot of times I think personality is just a system of programs.
Exactly.
I've been learning that a lot about
which does tap into tropical in my opinion, right? Like,
yeah,
really.
for sure. I've been noticing more. I'm like, has that been me, or has that just been like the programs that I've been running that actually aren't me? And like, how can I actually be me? It was awesome because my son's Leo, but in tropical, my son's Virgo. And like, since really knowing my son as Leo, I have made so much more art. I have done so much more like creation and performance. And so for me, it was like liberating to really go into that energy. And if somebody hasn't had a sidereal reading, they totally should.
For sure. 100% agree.
Yeah. For everyone who's listening, let yourself chill, let yourself rest, take that salt bath, you know, just really relax, because you want to have that yin energy for when the yang starts picking back up again. You want to have those kidneys supported when things start picking up a little bit. You know, a lot of us are exhausted because it's been a lot to navigate. And the more that you can really sink into the last little bit of this Chiron season and the Pluto, I really think it'll be a great gift that you can do to yourself. A lot of times when we're in the healing, we're just like, I hate this. When will this be done? This sucks. But really let yourself have the gift that's being given to you, which is healing out, getting out the gunk. Like that gunk could like turn into something a lot worse later if we don't let it go. You know, if we don't do our internal transmutation, it could, you know, that it could turn into something else. I've healed myself of so many things and I'm like, wow, most of that was trauma. So we could really do ourselves a service by sinking into where we are right here, right now, and not trying to fight it or resist it. And every state is temporary. So eventually we'll be doing something else.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah.
Okay, awesome. Do you have any projects you're excited to talk about?
Let me think. Well, I've been working on an art project, but we'll see if what happens with that. That's kind of like a project about smashing through all these systems. So I'm working on that, and I'm thinking about doing some things, but everything, you know, Mercury's about to go retrograde. So I'm like kind of like pondering. I've got some ideas, but I think come February, I probably will launch some new things. So maybe that's too mysterious, but things are still kind of in the workings right now. I am still doing my mentorship. Like I am doing my Serpent to the Stars mentorship. So it's a very one-on-one magical practice with me. Right now, I have one student, but I'm only open to taking 3 students at a time because it's very connected. We're in a close container. It's kind of like an ongoing thing. And we're working with the magic, the mythology rooted from the serpent mysteries and all connected to like magical practice and altars, to learning about astrology and how that's like affecting you. So I'm doing that mentorship. I have a Patreon that I put some extra like meditations and forecasts out on. And then of course I'm always taking my one-on-one sessions that kind of go from like energy healing to Chinese medicine to astrology to psychic work. I'm kind of like Chiron in a way. I can relate to Chiron. I'm like, because I definitely connect to my past life in the oracles of Delphi. I feel I can remember those lives and I can remember when I died in those lives. But so yes, I love this time because I'm like, oh, part of like my soul's lineage. And yes, so projects to soon to be announced and always open for new clients.
Okay, awesome. Well, thank you so much for taking the time to chat with me today.
Yes, thank you. This was really fun. And I learned a lot from you today.
Oh, excellent. So there you have it, everyone. That's what I have for you today. And I hope you enjoyed this conversation between me and Verone, and hopefully it opened your mind a little bit. Just about being flexible and perhaps to some new insights about Sagittarius season. I think I will probably have Verona on again when she's got some more projects out, and I'm going to put her information below if you'd like to get to know more, if you'd like to check out her offerings, her website, anything like that. I will also put my links below. I'm in the process of building and launching a super basics astrology course. And if you're watching this show, you're probably beyond the basics already, but just in case, it's gonna be really great. I've got it set up to cater to all different learning styles. There's gonna be videos, there's gonna be a workbook, there's gonna be assignments, quizzes, some diagrams where everything's just laid out super simple, and it will actually be applicable whether you want to use tropical sidereal or true sidereal. It's just about the basics, right? And it's going to be called How to Speak Astrology. So if you're curious about that, check out my links below and get on my mailing list. I also send out a semi-regularly, I got ADD, so regular astrology update, and I just keep everyone on my mailing list updated about session availability and all that good stuff. So hop on there if you're interested. Subscribe to my channel if you want to see more videos like this. I've also started doing little videos every Monday that I call Lunar Temple because it's on Monday, which is Moon Day, where I talk about the astrology a little bit and do a little bit of a reading and then an energy healing meditations. If that's your jam, subscribe, and I will see you on Monday. Hope you have a fabulous rest of Sagittarius season, and I will see you soon.